Hey guys, so here's a sword and shield guide based on data. All right, where to start? Let's start with the basic combo, and that best damaging combo is the corrupted mantle combo, chop, side, lateral return, or YYBB, or triangle, triangle, circle, circle, and just loop that on repeat. And the reason it has so much damage is because Y hits have an extra motion value of 6, so you get 2 hits of 6 motion value, and that's the reason why the damage is so high. And this ignores the affinity and the attack bonus you gain from the corrupted mantle, so just like on its own, because of those 2 extra hits, that's why the damage is superior to all the other standard combos. And you may be asking yourself, okay, well, this doesn't seem like it's that much more than these other combos, and it is. It doesn't look like that on the graph because the number, because it's it's showing from 0 to the max amount of damage, but I can just show you how much more damage it does. So if we look here, its DPS is, or its motion value per second I should say, is 61.2. So this is just the raw damage divided by, let's just take the B combo, plus Spinning Reaper, plus Charge Chop, plus Rising, divided by 56.6. And you can see that's like 8.1% damage increase. That is a lot of damage. So just because these bars don't look very close to each other, you have to take, how much percentage more damage are you doing? And that is a lot of damage. 8% is a lot of damage. Just to put it in perspective, like some armor skills don't give you that much more of a damage boost in the grand scheme of things. All right, so anytime you have Corrupted Mantle on, which is typically going to be beginning of the fight, you're going to do this combo. So what about other combos when you don't have the Corrupted Mantle on? Well, if we take the Corrupted Mantle off and we just do that same combo and you don't get the corrupted hits, it actually only goes to 54.1 motion value per second, which is a substantial decrease. So you can see just like those extra ticks give it a lot. I wouldn't even do that combo. There's a better combo you can do. You can do the B combo with lateral return, diagonal, Spinning Reaper, Charge Chop 2, Rising Slash, and that DPS is 56.6 motion value per second. So it's just better, right? But that combo is kind of long, right? It's really easy to get off lateral return, diagonal, Spinning Reaper. The question is Charge Chop. Now, if you have an opening and you want to kind of gamble, then yeah, you can go for Charge Chop, and then you get out of that with a Rising Slash. You can just kind of loop that on repeat. There's another combo here I've been seeing floating around, which is lateral return, round slash, and it's pretty competitive. It's slightly better. Okay, let's see how much more that does. 57.6 divided by 56.6, and it's just raw damage, by the way. It does 1.7 more damage. How I would determine like which combo to do: if you have short windows, you can do lateral return, round slash. If you have larger ones, you can do the Charge Chop 2 one. You can also see the sharpness spent per motion value. They're pretty equivalent also, but the thing is the elemental motion value is slightly higher for the lateral return, diagonal, Spinning Reaper, Charge Chop 2, Rising. So it's really going to be on a case-by-case basis. Like you have to consider monster hit zone values and the context of the fight. Can you get that Charge Chop 2 off where it's more safer just to do lateral return, round slash? And those moves are very small compared to Charge Chop 2. Charge Chop 2 is a very large investment in terms of time. So the lateral return, round slash could be better there. Now, I'm talking about DPS, but this is in a vacuum, right? Now, anytime you miss an attack, your DPS goes down tremendously, all right? So let's take the lateral return, round slash combo, and let's compare it to the chop side lateral return combo. Now, return stroke is very hard to hit. It's just naturally very hard to hit because it has a vertical component to it with pretty much 0 horizontal component. Anytime a move is like that, it's just naturally harder to hit. So if I were to miss my return on this combo, the motion value would be minus 28, right? So if we change this to, we just add minus 28 because we lost a return stroke on here. Our motion value per second goes from 57.6 to 40.8. 40.8 by 57.6. That's a 30% damage loss just by missing that attack, right? So this follows a video game concept that is not just in Monster Hunter, it's just like in all video games. And the concept is ABC, always be casting. Now, in Monster Hunter, you're not casting, right? Because that comes from MMO terms. But you always want to be hitting the monster. And the most important thing you have to remember is you want to be landing your hits. Now, it's especially more pronounced with Greatsword. Now, if you only get like 1 hit per exchange for a Greatsword and you miss that hit, you're doing 0 damage, right? Now, it's not so bad with Sword and Shield. If you miss 1 out of 4 hits, then the effect is slightly mitigated, but it still applies here, right? So say for the chop side lateral return combo, because I can adjust my movement with the chop side with those Y attacks, I can literally advance on the monster or back up, and just to ensure I can hit the hits, that DPS out DPSs the lateral return round slash if you miss the return slash, right? So this is something you always have to consider. Like, don't take this as like gospel. You're supposed to use, you know, proper video game concepts like ABC, and then you kind of, once you got that down, then you can look at this data and apply this data to see what is most optimal, right? So just a disclaimer there. All right, so let's talk about Perfect Rush. So Perfect Rush, the buffs are pretty good. You can see here, they actually out damage in terms of motion value. They go up to 58.5 with the various finishers, the Falling Bash finisher and the Plunging Thrust finisher, which is about 1.5 more damage than the lateral return round slash. So in a vacuum, yeah, it's better. The issue though with backstep, again, backstep you have to do, and you have to get in a position to do it. You can't just start doing it, right? You have to run up to the monster. Now, granted, you probably could advance to the part you want to hit with an advancing slash or a sliding swipe and then go to a backstep from there. But like if you're just running to the part, that's precious time spent not ABCing. So that's going to eat into your DPS. But that being said, you know, 58.5 is pretty good damage. But the key thing, and you could say, okay, well, it's just equivalent, on par or slightly better than the standard, you know, Y and B combos. But the thing going for this combo is the amount of sharpness it saves you. Now, in this column, I put motion value per sharpness. And look at this. So you have 23 to 26 to 30 motion value you get, like damage you get for each sharpness point spent. But look at the Perfect Rush combos. Like they're all 70 higher, 93, 118, 83. They're very sharpness efficient. The reason they're so sharpness efficient is because Perfect Rush 1 has a shield bash hit, which spends 0 sharpness. Perfect Rush 2 has a shield bash hit, which spends 0 sharpness. Falling Bash, the 2 hits from Falling Bash spend 0 sharpness. The only thing here is Plunging Thrust, you know, it does spend sharpness, but according to the data mine, the sharpness spent is only 0.2 per tick on the Plunging Thrust. Now, I cannot confirm that for myself. We're going to have to trust the data mine. I would have to use mods to actually see how much sharpness is actually spent for that, but I think this is a good approximation. It's well known that when you use sword attacks, it spends more sharpness than shield attacks. So we can be pretty confident in these numbers, even if they're not perfectly accurate. And this discrepancy is quite big in terms of sharpness spent. So, you know, when you do Perfect Rush, you're getting just a slightly bit more damage, and you're being more efficient with your sharpness. Now, does this really matter with the amount of sharpness that you can save with Master's Touch and Razor Sharp, just all of the sharpness mitigation that you have in endgame? Probably not, but there's definitely applications in the arena where you do have a limited sharpness. Like usually they give you like green sharpness in the arena. You definitely do not want to dip to yellow or orange sharpness in the arena if you're trying to get really good times. So there isn't a very strong argument to be made for Perfect Rush. Brings us to the question, like, okay, when is Perfect Rush worth it? And Perfect Rush is only worth it if you can get the whole combo off. Because look at this here. You only get 41 DPS if you were just to do backstep, leaving slash Perfect Rush 1 into Perfect Rush 2, which is the shield bash part of Perfect Rush. And that DPS is quite bad. And that's because the damage is backloaded all into Perfect Rush 3 and Falling Bash, which is good design, don't get me wrong. And this is a good design on Capcom part because it was actually bad because in Monster Hunter World, people were just roll canceling out of Perfect Rush 1 and Perfect Rush 2 because the motion values on Perfect Rush 1 and Perfect Rush 2 were so high. And that allowed people to just spam Perfect Rush 1 and Perfect Rush 2. So this is actually very good weapon design. Now, that being said, you do have to hit Perfect Rush 3. Perfect Rush 3, actually, they gave it an extra hit. I believe in the beta, it was 1 hit and 3 ticks of damage, and then you did the scaling slash. Perfect Rush 3 is also known as scaling slash, by the way. As the game currently is in its current state, I'll put in the pinned comments what patch this analysis was done for. They gave you an extra hit on the scaling slash for Perfect Rush 3. So you actually get 5 hits of damage instead of 4 for Perfect Rush 3, and that tremendously adds to your damage output. Not only that, they buffed the motion values on Perfect Rush 3. So again, you can see just everything they did, they backloaded all the damage onto Perfect Rush 3. So you need to hit that Perfect Rush 3. Now, the thing is, you can't just do Perfect Rush 3, right? Because Perfect Rush 3 is the scaling slash. You're going to be up in the air when you're doing it. So you have to do either a Falling Bash or a Plunging Thrust because you're not in neutral. If you're in mid-air, you're not in neutral. So it just doesn't count. You can't just do Perfect Rush 3. You have to do Falling Bash and Plunging Thrust, which is fine. They're both good options. Plunging Thrust does spend a little bit more sharpness compared to Falling Bash, again, because Falling Bash spends no sharpness whatsoever. It's a shield bash attack. I was a bit surprised to see that the elemental motion value per second or the elemental DPS for Plunging Thrust wasn't that much higher compared to the Falling Bash finisher. I would like to see Capcom increase the elemental motion value for all of these attacks that do a lot of ticking damage. Currently, they put the elemental motion value at 0.3. I would like to see that go up to 0.5. Same goes for charge chopped as well. So the takeaway is, if you don't have corrupted mantle on, you can do perfect rush. It's actually viable. There is actually an argument to do it to save sharpness. Now, if sharpness is not an issue and you're going to eat into your DPS window because of positioning and backstep, you can just stick with your standard combos instead of perfect rush. Like, both are viable. But again, giving these context considerations that I have just explained. If you do have corrupted mantle, though, do not do perfect rush. Just do the corrupted mantle combo. It's just so much damage, even though the sharpness efficiency isn't as good as perfect rush. All right, let's go into other various moves for Sword and Shield. So counter slash. You can see counter slash is actually the strongest move in the game. I thought it would be the second strongest move in the game under drill slash. But it's for pound the best move in Sword and Shield's toolkit. And the reason why it's so good is, you can see its raw DPS is just greater than 80. It's just so good. The sharpness spent on a counter slash is only 1, so its sharpness efficiency is really good. Additionally, its elemental motion value per second, or its elemental DPS, is very solid as well. Now, this effective DPS might actually be a little bit lower given if you are waiting to do a perfect guard and then a counter slash, because that breaks ABC, right? You're going to not be doing anything because you're waiting for your perfect guard. Now, if you can do, like, you do your slashing combo and then you get the perfect guard at the last second and then you follow with the counter slash, yeah, that is very DPS efficient. All right, this is the thing I was actually mostly curious, was the drill slash combos. So drill slash, like, if you just look at it, it just looks very efficient damage wise, and it is. And I actually thought it was going to be the strongest move in Sword and Shield moveset. It's actually not. Counter slash is the strongest move. Don't be fooled. It is still very, very strong for the amount of DPS it provides. You can see here it's greater than 60, and if you do the spinning reaper after it, you get a free spinning reaper after drill slash. It goes up to 70, which is like the second highest on this chart. And again, that's so much damage you can fit in such a small window. You can also do a powered charge chop after drill slash, which you can see here. If you're able to get the spinning reaper and the charge chop, of course you should go for it, because the DPS is very high and the total damage you can do is very high. There is one issue with this though, and it's your ability to use focus mode, because if you do a drill slash, it's going to open the wound, right? And you're going to be facing the wound. So you're going to do a spinning reaper on the wound, which is fine, but you don't really want to do a charge chop on the wound that you just opened, because it's going to pop the wound, and there's more efficient things you can do with that wound rather than just breaking it with a charge chop, right? You want to do a focus strike on it. So if you're good with focus mode and you have time, which is actually pretty rare, you actually don't really have that much time, you could do a drill slash, a spinning reaper on the wound, do a 180 and do a charge chop on like something else and start building towards another wound, and then go for a focus strike on the wound that you're originally facing at the very beginning. That takes skill though. That's not that easy to do. And again, this is very situational, because look how much time it takes to do. It takes about 5 seconds to do that. And the thing about drill slash is you're really trying, it's a very moment of opportunity, like when you're trying to hit your drill slash. It's like, oh, I can see it, okay, I can hit the drill slash. And usually in those times, you don't have 5 seconds to do all of this nonsense, right? So for the most, it's a very like 5% of the time you're going to get these opportunities. It's very rare. In my opinion, you do want to hit the spinning reaper though. It is just very DPS efficient. It's a free spinning reaper from a drill slash, and it just does so much damage, and you can pretty much do it anytime. You have so much time to do it, because it takes only 2 seconds to do all of that. It is a very short window and you can squeeze in that much damage. You should just always do it. Here you can actually drop, I was just curious, you can actually drop the spinning reaper and do the charge chop instead, the power charge chop. It's pretty good. You know, it does take 4 seconds to do. I would go for the spinning reaper though. It's just more guaranteed to get it. This is viable, don't get me wrong. You could make an argument for this, because at a 4-second window you could fit in more total damage, not DPS, total damage, right? Because the total motion value you would be getting with that would be 245, whereas if you just did a spinning reaper only, you'd only get 152 motion value potency spent, right? So in terms of total damage, it's actually better if the window allows for it. But again, that's just a monster knowledge thing. Like that's if you're labbing the monster and you established a very unique scenario that this combo can be the optimal response. All right, so let's talk about the focus strikes. So the focus strikes I did were the falling slash, the upswing bash, and the plunging thrust, and they are all pretty good. They're all pretty equal DPS here, but because they're all pretty equal DPS, you need to consider total damage, because in these scenarios, typically you have a free attack window to get all of them off. And yes, the falling bash and the plunging thrust take more time to do, and they take more time to do because you're flying up in the air and then you're coming back down, whereas falling slash, you're just coming down immediately, really quickly. But because it is sort of a pseudo free damage window, you have to go with the one that does the most total damage. You're not necessarily looking at DPS here. And the one that does the most total damage is actually the plunging thrust. You could do the falling bash if you're near the head, if you're trying to build towards a topple, because topple windows are your highest damage output. You're getting a virtual damage increase when you get those topples, when you're building up for those topples and actually getting them. And by topple, I mean like KO also. The falling bash is going for the KO. Plunging thrust does do the most damage. You do like the upswing bash on the upswing, and then when you're coming down, you do the plunging thrust. And for the training dummy, I counted 9 hits. Someone can let me know in the comments if you get more hits for taller monsters. But I think 9 hits is a very safe amount. It's pretty reliable, and it's a good, way to approach this analysis. So yeah, 43 DPS versus 41. You do have more elements than the other options as well, so you're just getting more damage that way. Yeah, so upswing into plunging thrust could be very viable. And this plunging thrust is the same as the one after Perk Rush 3 with the elemental motion value of only 0.3, whereas most moves are 1, 1.2, or 1.3, or 1.5. So even with that reduced elemental damage, it still has a very high contribution to elemental damage in the time window that you can do it. So it's still very beneficial here, even though it is quite low. So what's the TLDR for how to play Sword and Shield? Really good. TLDR, use corrupted combo, chop, side, battle, return. Just always do that anytime you have corrupted mantle on. When you don't have corrupted mantle on, you can use these 2 combos, the full B combo or the lateral return round slash. They're both very close in damage. If you need to be more reactive to the monster, probably lateral return round slash, because the charge chop 2 in the longer combo, probably not that many opportunities to get it off safely. You can do perfect rush. It is viable. Again, try to not waste time getting into position to do the backstep. It's probably even better if you can just do it immediately. Especially, this is actually especially true if like the monster takes a while to fall down, but if you can already get the backstep off before the monster's head is on the ground, that's actually very, very efficient, because you couldn't attack the monster head anyways. So in that case, the actual DPS could actually be higher for those scenarios. Its DPS is slightly higher, at about 1.5% higher than the B combos from above, but the biggest gain you get from Perfect Rush is the amount of sharpness you save. It is very, very sharpness efficient. Its elemental motion value is a little underwhelming compared to the Y and B sword combos, but I think just the total damage can be justified here. Counter slash is the strongest pound for pound move in Sword and Shield moveset. Always do counter slashes. Again, we have been seeing some high level monsters, for example, Arch Tempered Rate of Tao, preventing you from guarding. So counter slash is just not on the menu really for that monster. You can only do it after a roar, and there's only like 2 moves that's safe to do perfect guard to counter slash for Arch Tempered Rate Tao. Drill slash is very, very strong. Just if you see opportunities to do it, the safest option, get the drill slash off, get the spinning reaper off. It's very short window at 2 seconds, and it does very, very high DPS. If you have more time, you can fit in the spinning reaper and then do a 180 and then get the charge chop off and then try to get a focus strike on the wound you just opened. If you don't have enough time, but you can fit in the charge chop, drop the spinning reaper, use the charge chop, because the total damage actually spent is higher. Right here, 310 versus 152. Lastly, for the focus strikes, they all have comparable DPS, but they have different time windows and total damage, right? So you want to be using the one with total damage, because all are pseudo free DPS windows. And in those scenarios, you're trying to just do the most damage. So for that case, it'd be either falling bash or plunging thrust after you do the upswing bash. If you're near the head and you're going for a KO topple, which you should be going for if the monster is susceptible to KO, you would use falling bash. If the monster's very tall, or you're not going for the head, do the plunging thrust. Let me know in the comments if you want me to test something else. But that's it for this video, and thanks for watching.